is up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we got Chris from Skeletal Remains. Thank you so much for your time today, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for having me, and thanks for taking the time to give me a call.
Yeah, of course. It's so awesome to have you here. The Entombment of Chaos, which is scheduled to come out in September of this year. Could the first single that you released, Elusive Divinity, serve as a clear representation of what the whole album is going to sound like, or is this just the tip of the iceberg?
No, pretty much that's kind of the reason why we chose that song as the first single, because we feel that song kind of like gives you an idea of what the rest of the album will be like. But yeah, so it's kind of like kind of just giving you like I guess so you can get the vibe of what the rest of the record is going to sound like. And also because it's the opening track of the album, we also wanted to release that track for that reason, because that's the reason why it's the first song of the album, or the introduction to the album, because we feel it kind of just gives you the vibe of the rest of the record.
Mm-hmm. That's a good way of putting it, because I feel like people who love Elusive Divinity are going to love Tombs of Chaos and Eternal Hatred and so on and so forth. Was there kind of like a preconceived idea of what you wanted this album to sound like, or was there kind of like a lot of improvising involved?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I mean, we kind of had an idea of like, trying to make this record, as aggressive and, as, I guess, as extreme as possible compared to the last stuff we've done on the last few records. I feel this record is kind of like the next level for us. We try to push ourselves up, a lot on this record, and yeah, we kind of just wanted to, it's kind of like we've been wanting to do this record since the first album, but we haven't really been able to, do what we did on this record, because I felt we didn't have the right team to get that done. And yeah, I just feel like this record is, a lot more aggressive than any of the stuff we've done in the past.
Mm-hmm. So does this at all have any relation to Devouring Mortality, or conceptually this is a standout in the Skeletal Remains catalog?
This record is still, it's still Skeletal Remains. It's still, we're still writing the music the same without, it's been written for the last three records. I think it's still, it's kind of more towards the vibe that Devouring Mortality had compared to the past, the two records before that. I think it kind of, heads for a more, like I said, more extreme style, more aggressive. There's a lot more speed. There's a lot more kind of like thought in the riffs, and the riffs are more complex compared to the last record, and there's a lot more going on in the drums too, which I think it plays a big role on this record, because the drums are like there's a lot more going on, and we had Charlie on this album, and he was able to do what we wanted, what we were looking for, especially, I write most of the music on my computer with a drum machine, and I sent all the songs to Charlie, and, so I kind of already had an idea of what the record was going to sound like, because, Charlie's a few hours away from where we live, by plane, so he wasn't able to come down and be a part of the writing process. It was kind of just more me and Mike writing the music to a drum machine, and then we sent him over all the songs, and he learned all the songs, and obviously he put his own input, changed a few things around here and there, added his own taste to it, but yeah, I think it kind of continues off more like on what Devouring was, but kind of more to like the next level, the next step.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first this is the first record where you guys are signed to Century Media, right?
No, so we were signed to Century Media with Devouring Mortality, but we were only signed. We had a deal only with the European side of Century Media, and that's why Dark Descent released the album in North America. But this is the first time that we released an album worldwide with Century Media, so now we're worldwide with them.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, because I've had a couple of other I had this discussion with a couple of your label mates about this actually, but it seems like Century Media has definitely been a label really flying the forefront and signing a lot of really aggressive bands. Like just this year alone, they have Lorna Shore and Imperial Triumphant and Red Death, and of course having Aborted on their side, and so many incredible, insane bands. Like I'd imagine working with them has definitely been helpful for you guys as well, right?
Oh yeah, that definitely. We've been able to do a lot of the stuff. Like I said, we've been wanting to do with since the beginning of the band. Like for example, work with Dan Seagrave and Dan Swano, and having a label like Century Media, back us up. Like we have a bigger budget and we're able to do more stuff that we've been wanting. We've dreamed of doing. So yeah, they've been very helpful, and everybody at the label has been great to us, and yeah, we couldn't be happier. I'm really happy with how everything's been working out, and yeah, I'm happy to be able to work with them for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I almost feel like Century Media could really like almost have like the entire Summer Slaughter roster like for a future tour.
Yeah, definitely. They do tend to pick up a lot of the good extreme bands.
Definitely. And I kind of wanted to ask you now a question, like, kind of going into the history of Skeletal Remains, because you used to play in Fueled by Fire. So were you like, when forming Skeletal Remains, did Fueled by Fire at all actually influence Skeletal Remains, or did you kind of want to do something completely different?
Yeah, so for those who know kind of, the history of Fueled by Fire and stuff, when I came into that band, if you listen to the records, from going from the first record to the second record, which is where I came in the band and started doing a lot of the writing, you can kind of hear the influences that I was, there's a lot more death metal influence in the second and the third record because it was a lot of my writing. And Skeletal Remains was started for that reason. I've always wanted to do, a death metal project because it's, it's what I've always wanted to do. Like my preference of metal. Like what I prefer to be writing and listening to. Nothing against thrash metal. I grew up on that stuff too, and I love that stuff. But there's nothing like death metal. So I've always wanted to do a death metal project, and that's the reason why Skeletal Remains was started. That, and also being that I kind of this band was never intended to be something as serious as it has become. It was supposed to be something that me and Mike were kind of just doing on the side, like when I wasn't touring with Fueled by Fire. At that time, I was quite busy with Fueled by Fire. I was touring all the time, and it was a pretty serious band. And this was kind of something we wanted to do just when I was home, and when I wasn't touring, me and Mike were just. We've been friends since, for a long time, so when we would hang out, and like drink some beers, we'd always be jamming out, playing covers and stuff, and that's kind of how Skeletal Remains was born, just more of it being like a small project that, we just wanted to play covers of, and then eventually once we pretty much covered all the stuff we wanted to, we were like, hey, let's write some music together, and yeah, that's kind of how it started.
That's really interesting. It's so funny on how many like bands like were just intended to be a side project and then end up like storming into something that's even bigger than that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I think it happens a lot. Just for example, like SOD, and how it was supposed to be just like a small thing, and it got so big. It almost got bigger than Anthrax. So yeah, it's crazy how it works.
Yeah, definitely. As a vocalist, for Skeletal Remains, do you need music before you come up with lyrics, or has there ever been a time where like you have a lyrical concept in mind and maybe that could help determine the music itself?
It's usually always the music first, because being a guitar player, and I've always been a guitar player. The whole singing thing didn't come in until when Skeletal Remains was started, and it was more of a thing where it would kind of just. I started singing in the band because we couldn't find anyone that wanted to do it, and no one was really willing to do it, and I kind of was just like, fuck it, I'm tired of looking for someone, I'll just do it. So I've never really been, even to this day, I don't consider myself being a good singer or a good, lyricist. I'm not too good with writing lyrics, so it's always usually the music that comes first. That's usually what I write, or what we write as band, and then the lyrics always come after. We already have somewhat of ideas of we're always taking influences from different things, whether it be in a movie or a video game or a book or anything we see. We always take influences and like kind of come up with an idea. Sometimes I write shit on my phone and kind of like it starts from there, and then we obviously put our own taste to it and make the whole theme or whatever we're writing about. Give it more of a Skeletal Remains taste and make it as brutal as possible. But yeah, it's usually the music first and then the lyrics come in later.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Do you think one day you'll be so fed up with the singing that you'll just have a singer eventually and you'll just be the guitar player?
Not with this band. I think at this point I probably don't see myself ever stepping down from it, but I have thought about starting a different band where I'm just playing guitar again because as much as I enjoy it, I do want to just, I'm a guitar player, so I would like to just be able to focus on just playing guitar and being a guitar player and being able to focus on, just solos and, riffs and stuff where, I do this, I do it on here too, but I feel like I also have to, be focused on vocals and stuff like that, so I feel like I would want to one day do another project where I'm just playing guitar.
Mm-hmm. That's I would say fair enough. Like I feel like there's so many times where you start a project with one intention and it ends up completely differently. I'd imagine that becoming a vocalist almost like out of default, it had to have maybe influenced on how you approach the way you play guitar as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, and yeah, I totally agree with that. It's totally like a whole different thing, compared to when I'm just on stage playing guitar. It's a lot easier for me to do that than when I'm doing both, and I have to somewhat be a front man as well, and it's a whole completely different thing. It's almost like you're playing two instruments at once.
Yeah. Well, hey, Chuck Schuldiner, man, you wanted a death metal band? I don't think there's a better inspiration to take than that. So.
Yeah, definitely. He plays a big role in my influences. One of the biggest influences to me. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, because when people say that they're a death metal band, and this could just me being, 26 years old, but when people say that they're in a death metal band, I ask, so is it more like, traditional death metal like Morbid Angel or Deicide, or is it more technical death metal like Obscura, or is it more melodic death metal like At the Gates? Was there like specific death metal influences that you were kind of like looking at when forming Skeletal Remains?
Yeah, it was mostly more of the traditional stuff, like the old school stuff. We were trying to just when we started Skeletal Remains, here in LA, there wasn't many bands there was death metal bands. Don't get me wrong, and obviously there was the legends like Sadistic Intent who have been around for since forever, since this shit was started. But we wanted to do something more, more that was more of the old school stuff, more heavily influenced by like more of the Florida style death metal. All the early '90s stuff, late '80s stuff, and yeah, that's kind of what like we wanted to do when the band was started. Obviously now things have changed. We take influences from many different bands, even newer bands that are newer death metal bands, technical death metal bands like Necrophagus and stuff like that. But we're still trying to keep it more of like the old school worship thing, but yeah, definitely when we started, we kind of would just kind of trying to mix, all of the stuff that we grew up listening to and, make it our own thing, even if it was like, I don't know, as long as it was like the old school death metal thing, like even if it doesn't matter if it was, Swedish or Canadian or, I don't know, European or American, it doesn't matter, as long as it sounded good to us, that's kind of what Skeletal Remains. Skeletal Remains was intended to be a band that takes all of these, different styles of old school death metal, I guess you can say, and make it its own.
Yeah, well, because you've also toured with like a variety of different bands too. Like you've toured with more hardcore bands. Like, weren't you on a couple of dates with Hatebreed and Obituary last year?
Yeah, so we did the Hatebreed. I think it was their 25th anniversary tour.
Yep.
Yeah, we did that. We did the second leg of that, which had Obituary. I have so many cool bands, man. I had Obituary. Who else was on there?
Prom.
Shit, I can't even remember. Yeah, Prom was on there. so many cool bands, and especially because I can't remember right now. It's just we toured so much since then that I can't fucking remember the names. There were so many legendary bands on that tour. That's honestly, to this day, that has been my favorite tour that we've ever done. But yeah, we've done. Agnostic Front was on that as well. But yeah, we've done so many different tours that with different styles of bands. Like Black Dahlia Murder, which is more it's a little bit different from what we've done, and Revocation and Voivod, and I think it's cool to do packages like that because it brings different different fans, from different styles, and that's what I think. That's what gets the places packed, and people are going for different bands, and even if you're a metal fan, you can still, people still enjoy all these different styles of music, because it's kind of similar but different.
Yeah, well, I remember last year when it was on the Decibel tour with Cannibal Corpse, Morbid Angel, Necrot, and Blood Incantation, which was a sick tour. And there was people from major newspapers interviewing the fans and the bands, because it seems like death metal now, it's been under it's been under the radar for so long, but it almost seems like, obviously death metal's not going to be mainstream like Weezer, obviously, but it almost seems like death metal is starting to get the respect that it deserves in a way.
Yeah, definitely, man. And I went to both the LA and the Orange County date of that tour, and yeah, man, it was such a good bill and really good bands, and yeah, I feel like it's starting to get like you said, it's what it deserves, it's recognition, and yeah, I feel like there's a lot of really cool bands that are coming out nowadays, a lot of younger bands kind of similar to us, and a lot of the legendary bands are starting to come back as well, and it's fucking awesome, man. It's almost like it used to be back in the days. I mean, I don't think you'll ever see a death metal band on TV anymore like it was back then, obviously with MTV, but yeah, I mean, I think that the social media and the big like YouTube platforms like that play a big role in in society today. So obviously you can just search up any band, and I think that helps a lot too. Like the whole YouTube and social media thing, it's starting to get more popular again, and it's awesome.
Yeah, and Metal Archives as well. I think they've exposed a lot of people as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. When you look at the entire Skeletal Remains catalog, from Devouring Mortality to Condemned to Misery to Beyond the Flesh, does it almost represent a timeline or a self-portrait of who you personally are in a way? Because I know that you mentioned that you take inspiration from movies and video games, but is there ever any vestige of your personal self into the lyrics or into the music as well?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that kind of reflected on this new album. I think that's what kind of makes this album so aggressive. A lot of our the stuff we were going through personally, I think kind of reflected on the music and some of the songs, like Eternal Hatred, for example. That's kind of based on some personal stuff we were going through, and I think that's what makes this record so aggressive. But definitely, I mean, for the rest of our discography, yeah, there's definitely some songs that that are kind of based on some personal stuff that we were going through, and I think that's what it is with every record, especially with the riffs and stuff. Sometimes riffs come out the way they do because of the way you're feeling that when you're writing that riff. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the final question I wanted to ask you is, when it comes to your live shows, I sadly missed you on the Revocation Voivod tour date because there was 7 big shows in New York City on that one day alone. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I think I remember At the Gates was playing that same day, right, or something with Arch Enemy, and yeah, somebody mentioned to me that there was so many killer shows that day, but
yeah, so I'll tell you what it was. I'll tell you what it was. So you had the Revocation Voivod show in Brooklyn Bazaar, which is sadly a venue that's no longer with us, but you also had Amon Amarth with Arch Enemy and At the Gates at another show. You had Napalm Death, Municipal Waste, and Sick of It All at another show. You had Life of Agony at another show. You had Earthless playing at St. Vitus, and you had Evergreen Terrace playing at another show, all in one night.
Fuck, that's awesome, man. That's killer.
Yeah, they sing Metal and Meat. What?
Yeah, surprisingly, I mean, our show was fucking awesome. With all those shows going on, I would expect our show not to be that great, but yeah, our show was killer, man. That was probably one of the best shows from the whole tour. It was really awesome.
Yeah.
It was a good way to end the tour for sure.
Definitely. There's no New York. Nobody brings it like New York.
Yeah, man. I was actually, well, it was the second time I played New York. I played New York, but that was Fuel by Fire years back when I was like a kid. But yeah, I don't think I appreciated it that much, because I don't know, we didn't really get to look around. But this time we got a chance to look around and kind of hang out and stuff. So yeah, man, I love New York. I can't wait to go back there and play there again.
Yeah, just when it comes to your live shows, is there a similar energy into playing live as you do when you're songwriting, or is songwriting and playing live almost two separate arts altogether?
I think it's somewhat similar, but obviously when you have all these fans and all this energy being shot back at you, that's what makes it different. But there's that goes into playing a show similar to when you're writing a riff. It has to have that certain, at least that's the way it is with me when I'm writing a riff. I still it's kind of similar to when I'm playing a show. There's this energy, this aggressive energy that I'm kind of putting into when I'm writing a riff. But I think the only difference is obviously when you have all this energy getting shot back at you from the fans. I think that's what makes it different.
Yeah, you guys should try to do an album where you have the audience in the studio with you.
Yeah, that would be pretty interesting, man. I wonder what that would sound like.
And God bless that producer's soul if you make that happen. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Just obviously thanks to a certain virus that shall not be named. I know that shows aren't happening at the moment, but I'd imagine when all this is over, we'll be seeing you on the road quite a bit, right? Are there any plans to hit the road, to support the Entombment of Chaos?
Yeah, man. We had a lot of stuff already planned out for this, the end of this year, but this shit, luckily everything just got moved, so hopefully it will all happen next year. But there's definitely plans of us touring, Europe, U.S., South America, a bunch of stuff we have planned. So hopefully it all happens next year. Either way, I'm sure we'll be announcing a lot of stuff soon. But yeah, let's hope it happens, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chris. Everybody, we are here with Chris of Skeletal Remains, The Entombment of Chaos, coming out this September via Century Media. Be sure to pick it up then. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.